Uh-oh. Hold on. Oh, just got other things popping onto my screen that I don't want. Okay, so good evening, Pōmārie, everybody. Lovely to have you here. Welcome to all the staff that have joined us tonight, the community board, and of course those at home watching our Zoom meeting. So tonight we'll get the meeting started as per usual with apologies. So I understand that we have an apology from board member Jill Taylor. So I believe everybody else is here. So if we can just move that the Awamutu Community Board accept the apologies of board member Taylor for non-attendance. And someone's got them. Thanks, Richard. A seconder, please. Lou, thank you. All in favour? Can you just raise your hands, probably? Yep, cool. Against? Carried. Okay, disclosure of members' interests. Have we got anybody that needs to make a disclosure for this evening's meeting? No? Okay, we will move on to the confirmation of the order of the meeting. So that the Awamutu Community Board confirms the order of the meeting. Can I have someone to move that, please? Gary, thank you. Second. Richard, thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, so tonight we have the in the public forum we have Linny Osborne, Diana Jones and Lorraine Flynn from the Yawamutu Rose Society. So ladies, you have 5 minutes to tell us all about what you're doing with the Rose Society and the event you're planning, and why you would like some money to help you to do so. So take it away, who's ever speaking first. Are you right with your mute button? Who's going?
Is
got you.
Diana there? Is Diana there?
Diana's currently reconnecting to the meeting.
Lorraine, are you able to go first? Because Diana's just having reconnecting her phone.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Apparently there was a couple of questions that you wanted answers to.
Yes.
I believe one of them was about the capitation fee that we pay.
Yes, that's right.
I can answer that. As a District Rose Society, we are affiliated to the New Zealand Rose Society based in Palmerston North. Out of our subscription of $30 is a capitation fee of $25, which entitles our members to the Rose Cultural Handbook. You see that? And the Rose Annual, which is quite a substantial book. You see that?
Yes.
And the Rose Review book, which the New Zealand Rose Society produce, and any other rose information that is required. Plus, it also entitles members to show their roses at district rose shows throughout New Zealand. The capitation fee has to be paid in advance based on the previous year's membership. It is payable in April. Therefore, we need to make sure we have enough funds in hand to cover this, as although the current membership is then due, it does not all come in on time. From the $5 left out of the $30 subscription, we have to run our monthly meetings Expenses from that include the room rental, gifts for our guest speakers, some raffles, and monthly newsletter, printing and postage costs, and supper. In December, we have a small Christmas function. The quote provided to you for our proposed show is based on what we have received as quotes for items we need to purchase, hire, and advertising and engraving of the trophies that we have to hand out. Plus, there will be other expenses as we are starting from scratch. Any assistance towards our first show as a new society would be much appreciated. Thank you for listening. Have you any questions?
Okay, so have we got any questions? Oh, actually, first, Lynnie, did you want to add something to that? Lynnie, can you hear me okay? Did you want to add anything to what Lorraine was saying? Your mute's on.
Turn it off. Okay. How's that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm on the committee. I'm not a rose grower, but all the ladies that are on the committee are, except for me. And I came on board to help with the marketing and promotion. And I believe the same as the other ladies that Rosetown needs a rose show. The last rose show was in 2014. Been nothing since then. In 2015, it disbanded, and the current members at that time, of which there are only a few, all closed down. And when Diana returned to Yawamutu and decided we needed a rose show and a rose society, her and the other ladies went around trying to find all the old collateral, and unfortunately, most of it has disappeared. Here's Diana now, and if she can hear, I'll let Diana take over.
Okay, so we've just got a couple of, basically another minute to go, Diana, because we've pretty much used up your talking time. So if you can just sort of add fairly concisely anything you would like to add to the conversation.
Thank you. Did you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry, I just could not get the speaker on. So finally, I'm here. I'm Diana Jones. I'm the president of the newly established Rose Society. The past Rose Society closed down in 2015 after 57 years. I felt it was so important to start up and have a Rose Society here in Te Awamutu, as we are known worldwide as the Rose Town in New Zealand, and image we must hold on to. In 2020, the new Rose Society was reborn. So in August this year, we asked for your help with funding to help put on the 58th Rose Show. This will be the first Rose Show for the new society after 7 years without one, for the public and visitors to be inspired by the rose and our town's image. The community funding would be a big help towards the costs involved to put on a good rose show. At this point in time, with our November Rose Show only a few weeks away, with COVID now in the Waikato, a committee decided we postponed the show until early 2022, so to keep our members safe. It really is a day-by-day decision for everyone because of COVID. Thank you.
Thanks, Diana. Okay, have we got any questions for the ladies from the board? I'll just whip round. Kane, is there anything, do you have any questions for them?
I just want to be clear on the amount. Thanks for presenting tonight, ladies. It's really good. I agree. I think Rosetown definitely needs a rose show. That's my view. I just want to be clear. So you're asking for $2,500 or just a little over. Are you saying you've got 3,000? You got 3,000 from last time, but you're asking for 2.5 now, right? And just wondering how many members you've got and what that subscription raises.
Okay, I'll ask our treasurer, Lorraine, to explain all this to you. Thank you.
Yes, the $3,000 was a donation from the Rose Trust, which is a separate identity to the Rose Society, to help re-establish us. That was in 2020. So, and that was so we could provide our members, which we have, well, at that stage we had 42, we have 41 now, but that was so we could provide them with the cultural handbooks, Rose Annual and Rose Review books, as I said before. But having to pay that money in advance all the time, we have to make sure we've got that amount to pay, because it's not always going to be $25. It could be more per member, which adds up over time. So, yes, that's about, I think that's answered your question.
Okay, thanks. Is that okay, Kane? That was all you wanted to ask? Yeah. Okay, lovely. Gary, have you got any questions for our lovely ladies?
Indeed. Linny, hi, Diana and Lorraine. Haven't seen you for 100 years, Lorraine. So how are you doing? Listen, I looked through the application. We haven't assisted you guys since 2015 or before. I totally agree with you. I'm fully in support of what you're attempting to do, which I think, given the COVID times there, is really, really challenging for you. I know what it costs to set up and to run something like that, and I think with the amount that you are requesting from us there, absolutely in full support, and I totally wish you all the best. And I know there's been a rebranding discussion and conversations around Te Awamutu, but until that happens, when and if there, we are regarded as the Rose Town, and I fully support what you're doing. So yeah, I'm 100%.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary. Lou, did you have any questions for the lovely ladies? No, nothing from you? All good? Cool, thank you. Richard?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you,
Okay,
ladies.
thank you. Yep, and Susan?
No, thanks for the clarification, ladies. Nice to see you, Linley.
Thank you.
Lovely. So thank you very, very much, Linny, Lorraine and Diana, for taking the time to join us tonight and to clarify those couple of questions that we did have around that capitation question, and just, you know, understanding how your finances worked a little bit better. That's awesome. And we do hope COVID, you know, goes away basically, so that you can get on and have your show, or at least that we're mostly vaccinated so that you can go ahead with your show. So I believe the sooner that happens, the sooner these lockdowns will come down and not bother us quite so much. So thank you very, very much, and have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
very welcome to stay on for the meeting if you wish, but by the same token, we won't be offended if you do choose to leave. So thanks again. Right, so now that takes us to pages 9 to 15 for confirmation of the minutes. So if I can just have someone to move that the Te Awamutu Community Board confirm the minutes of the meeting held 14 September 2021 as circulated with the agenda as a true and correct record of proceedings. So have we got someone to move that for me? Gary, thank you. Richard to second. All in favour?
Aye.
Yep. Any against? Thank you, carried. That now takes us to our quarterly report on pages 17 to 31. So I believe Martin's here. I spotted him. So welcome, Martin. So we have Martin Mould, Manager of Water Services, to speak to his report. Hopefully you've all read it, so he can be saved a little time and just highlight some of the main points. But before we get you into that, we'll just move that we've received the Water Services Activity Report to the 31st of August 2021 of Martin Mould, Manager of Water Services. So can I have someone to move that, please? Kane, thank you. To second?
I'll second it, Ange.
Susan, thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, Martin, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Cool. Good evening, Chair and committee members. So take the report as read, and I'll just highlight a few things along the way. So of particular note is the flood hazard mapping. So if you recall, we sent out just under 1,000 letters to properties we identified as possible to flood in a 1 in 100 year event. And we've then done more surveying since then, and we're down to probably it'll be confirmation of less than 100 houses will actually flood in a 1 in 100 year event. And so they'll be the houses that have letters and notices on their limbs forming of that. We haven't sent those letters out yet due to COVID, etc. We've still got a few surveys to finish, and we'll save those letters till we're back working normally. We've currently got 4 reticulation staff who have had their training in backflow testing, and 4 more were due to go this month, but that's been cancelled for obvious reasons. We're continuing to work with the DIA and Water New Zealand on the transition programme for the proposed water reform, and all that work's been undertaken on a no regrets basis. So we're working as what would transition look like, but no decisions have been made, so it's just a no regrets working basis. And last financial year, compliance was met for all the water treatment plants for both bacteria and protozoa, and we had not one zone non-compliance in the Pukurimu scheme, where the maximum level between sample days was exceeded. So we have to take samples on a schedule. It's supposed to be every 3 days, and our scheduling was out by 1 day for one sample. So we were non-compliant for the year, which is fair enough. We deserve that. And for this reporting period, starting this financial year, where 2 water treatment plants are non-compliant for bacteria, with all plants compliant for protozoa, and I'll talk about that in a while. And the Pukurimu zone again is non-compliant for July due to 2 positive E. coli samples within reticulation. We're still investigating that, but the evidence suggests that safe water was provided, and it's likely to have been a cross-contamination event in the sample, as opposed to anything bad in the water schemes. And I'll flick on to our summer campaign. So for our summer campaign, you remember we have the 4 alert levels, 1 to 4, for water conservation. Typically, for the last 10 years, they've been based on a capacity-driven level. So when capacity reaches 70% of what we can achieve, we move through the alert levels until we finally get to alert level 4. Obviously, we've spent an awful lot of money over the last few years to improve our capacity. So we need to look at a different way of approaching this summer's campaign. So we're looking at it being more a educational campaign around water conservation rather than an outright, when we've reached this trigger level, we'll go to it. So we'll still have water alert levels, but there'll be more educational basis than a formal campaign. We're still working on what that looks like. So hopefully we'll have that ready by 1 December. And next is on section 5.4, where we had those non-compliances at the treatment plants. So again, when water leaves the treatment plants, it's required to, we had chlorine, and that's required to have a contact time before it leaves the treatment plant of 30 minutes after it's been dosed. And on two different plants, we failed to prove evidence that we'd complied with that 30 minutes in our first report to the District Health Board. So we're not currently non-compliant. We are looking at retrieving data from other sources other than the stuff we send directly online to confirm we did have that 30-minute contact time. So hopefully those non-compliances will be removed in due course. The Parallel Road Water Treatment Plant, which is almost finished. It's currently being commissioned, and we're currently sending water over to Yawamutu from there, and we're just waiting for final sign off on that water being compliant, and then we can put it in service, which will be good. And the Cambridge Wastewater Treatment Plant, we're still working through the consent, and we're also starting, there's a list there of enabling works we'll be starting shortly to enable, when construction does happen in a couple of years' time, for that to happen smoothly. So there's a list of items there that we'll be working through. And then on stormwater hotspots, if you recall a while ago, we talked about rain gardens, which we're looking at installing on Lake Takutu. We're almost ready to let a contract for that work to be undertaken, and we'll be putting in about 12 rain gardens around the roundabout by the White Church in Cambridge and down to the Queen Street roundabout. And again, we'll be looking at having a very strong educational program along with that to educate the community why we're doing rain gardens, how they work, and what they're doing to protect the lake. So again, there should be a large educational campaign alongside that. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Martin. As always, a very comprehensive report. Very impressed with your CRM stats and things. So not many complaints coming through, 0.08 and things like that. So well done to the team there. But have we got any questions from any of the board? Kane, we'll go with you. So you popped your hand up. Anyone else? Just so I can... Yep. Okay, Richard, come to you next. Kane.
Through you, Madam Chair. Thanks very much, Martin. It's a really good report. I'd probably call the no regrets 3 waters to the big regrets 3 waters. Just in terms of the costs associated with this sort of transfer, what's that costing the council in terms of time and effort? Are we hiring more people at this stage, or?
So currently we're not requiring any more people currently, and our time is being paid for by the DIA. Any time we spend, the staff spend on it is paid back by the DIA. Yeah.
Thank you.
Richard.
Hi, Martin.
Hi, Richard.
Just under 4.2 smart water education, the community outreach, where is that going to happen? Is it going to be local or?
Yep, so that generally happens across the district. It's run in an association with Hamilton City Council as well. They're our smart water partners, so it tries to cover the entire region for that campaign. Yep. So yeah, I'm not sure of the exact details yet, but I'll let you know once it's been worked through.
Cool, thank you.
Great. Were there any other questions or any comments? No, lovely. Martin, I just wanted to add, love some of the ideas that are coming through there around the rainwater harvesting and you know, things like the school curriculum kits and stuff like that. So there's some really great initiatives coming through. So once again, well done to the team, and it's exciting. And you know, we look forward to seeing this smart water education, etc., rolling out in the summer. So all the best with that promotion. And if the community board can be any help, please let us know. We're happy to assist where we can. So thank you.
Thank you. I think Gary had a question. He did put his hand up.
Oh,
did he?
Yep, he did. Sorry, Gary.
Look, that's right. No, it was just a compliments. Yeah, good evening, Martin. Compliments on that one there. And I see obviously you're trying to get on top of the those minor compliance issues that we've had, but nobody's got sick from drinking our water, Martin, from my personal feedback. So no, good report, and
hopefully not.
Happy to see you guys progressing, you guys and girls progressing the way you are. So thanks for the report. Very good.
Cool. Thanks very much.
Okay, so that takes us to our next report, which is pages 32 to 34, in regard to the Yawamutu and Cambridge skate parks update. We have Brad Ward, Acting Manager of Community Services, and Gina Scott, our Community Advisor, in attendance to speak to that report. But before we get into that, we will just move that we've received it. So can I have someone to move, not remove, to move that the Te Awamutu Community Board receive the report, Te Awamutu and Cambridge Skate Parks update from Gina Scott, Community Advisor. Gary, thank you. Richard, second. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, so Brad and Gina, take it away.
Cool. Kia ora koutou, mori ora ki a tātou, ko Brad Takaingoa. Good evening, Madam Chair and committee members. We'll take Gina's report largely as read, but we'll quickly provide an overview of the skate park project at Centennial Park, which you may know a little bit about already, but we'll try to fill in any gaps. So during the 2021 to 31 LTP consultation, there was some really clear direction from the community that they wanted to have current skate park facilities replaced in Cambridge and Yawamutu, and also from the Kiki and Prongia communities that they would like to see skate facilities as well. So following the LTP deliberations, all 4 skate parks were included within budget, with an objective to have each location providing a point of difference for the skate park users and domestic tourists. For this project, we've got our project delivery team will be driving the procurement and project management, and Gina Scott, who is our community advisor, who you'll hear from in a minute, she's going to be driving our stakeholder engagement. And I'll be sifting around in the background, providing direction and support as I can. The Te Amaru site, which is at Centennial Park, we're looking to have that as the first cab off the rank. The reason being that we'll try and tie that in with the parkour facility and the play equipment installation, which we've previously spoken to you about, which is already well in advanced planning stages. It's all going well with procurement of a contractor. We'll commence that in Centennial Park in May. As I touched on earlier with the skate park installation, we're looking to include that into a contract which will go across 4 years and be inclusive of a play provision contract. So we're looking to get an expression of interest out to contractors this week. We've got some very clear criteria that need to be met to ensure that we get a quality contractor. So I'm pretty confident we'll get that. When I presented to you last year with Rick McFall, he spoke of his eagerness to get a bike skills track up and running at Centennial Park as well. We spoke with Gina spoke with Regan earlier this week just to see how he's placed and tracking with that, and he's still really motivated to deliver and upgrade that bike schools park. But in the current climate with COVID, he's having a bit of trouble with access to contractors and fundraising, and also focusing on his own business as well at the moment. So he's just probably pushing pause on that while until we get to a bit of a new normal in our COVID sense, as Madam Chair touched on earlier. Vaccination seemed to be the way to be going with that. However, he is quite interested to still be involved in the projects, and he's really keen to be part of our what we're calling Kaitaki group for our skate parks. And to explain a bit more on that, I'll hand over to Gina, who's going to be helping deliver that aspect of it.
Kia ora koutou, thanks for having us. So yeah, just I guess carrying on, we are going to create a kaitiaki group for each of the skate parks, like to help us through this process. And what we're the intention of that is to get the users of our parks, and predominantly youth, but obviously we have a wide range of aged users of these parks, to take some ownership and help support and keep these places safe and well looked after. So I've made some contact with some of the kids or youth that presented to the LTP, with the councillors as part of the LTP submission process, and everybody I've spoken to has been really keen to get involved. So we're giving them the opportunity, obviously, to be feeding back into the draft plan, which we have at the moment, coming shortly. We're going to run some sessions at the skate parks, which they will be involved in, and it's also an opportunity for us to, I want to say use, which is not ideal, but to use them to share our advertising across their social media platforms, and which we don't have access typically through our council comms approach. So yeah, we're leading sort of a 3-pronged engagement through this whole process. So the first step being, we're going to go out with our draft and get as much information as we can and feedback from the communities that are using these parks, and then be able to hopefully design then a place where these kids or youth and skate park users, where they want to be, that caters for all of their needs, not just now but sort of moving into the future. once we get our first phase of feedback, that will go back to the designer. He will then try and incorporate what he can, where he can, into the design. We'll go back to our community again, ask them for feedback on that, and then and a third time. So hopefully by the third time we've come up with a really cool design, creating a space where everybody's really happy, that caters for skaters of high level, not so high level, scooter users, and anyone else in between. So we're hoping to really be able to create something that caters for everybody. So because at the moment, I guess, I'm not sure you may know this, but a lot of our skaters are leaving town to go and skate at parks where they have better access to better skate parks, to different kind of jumps and whatever that lingo might be, because I'm not a skater, but so that they are leaving our community, and we don't want that. We want them to be a part of our community for as long and as much as we can. So look, it's pretty exciting, and like I said, everybody that I've spoken to is just so keen to be involved and really, really excited to just to be part of the process and to see that this is happening. I guess just a couple of things I will touch on. It's just the date. So the dates have actually been changed. So in the report, we recorded the dates as being the 23rd of October, which is still right. And then we had, oh my gosh, I've scribbled on my piece of paper and I can't actually see what it was originally, but now it's the 27th of October. We are aware that this is close to Labour weekend, but in saying that, it was an opportunity for us to get our designer on site. And so he would then too be able to feed back to our community and answer any questions that we can't, because typically none of us in the project team are skate experts. I would really love some support from the community board if anyone's got some time to be there and to come along and be a part of that process. So you're more than welcome. I'd love to see you there. So yeah, that's pretty much me.
And just to follow up from what Jenny was saying there, we presented this same report to the Cambridge Community Board last week. And in their feedback, they provided feedback on incentivising the community engagement with a barbecue or ice cream. We took that back to the project team this week and last week, and we sort of fleshed it a bit more, and we felt that it could undermine the integrity of the engagement. We're not trying to just create numbers to these events or to this engagement. We want to actually get the users that actually going to be using the skate park for the future to be providing us the direction and the feedback that they want. So we, in saying that, we are looking at providing a skateboard giveaway across the 4 different communities, just so we're actually getting that targeted incentivization or draw card to bring some of those crowds in. The ones that we know will draw us to the right feedback that we can take away to have a really informed concept design and successful skate park. So that's the end of our kōrero tonight, but is there any questions or feedback you would like?
Okay, I see Lou's got his hand up first. So Lou, fire away.
That's it. Thanks very much for your excellent report. Well done, Gina. And I do agree with you. Just a couple of things. With Te Paparoa, that's at Kiki, what have we actually come up with a venue? There was sort of some toing and froing there about venues and whether we, what locality they had. And the other one was with Regan McFall. Will that pump trap be compromised with this design, or we're going to still have a pump trap? Because I think there's a place for that as well in this design. Having seen a pump track, they certainly do attract quite a different crowd to skateboards. Okay.
Yeah,
so
thanks, Councillor Lou. To answer your the second question first, on the pump track, yeah, there's plenty of space there. The concept design that we had refreshed in the last year provides space for the pump track, the skate park, parkour facility, and some play elements as well. So plenty of space to continue doing that, and we haven't encroached on that space at all with what we're doing now. The first question on Te Paparoa, we've had a early kōrero with them just to see how far they've progressed their discussions and things like that. You're right, the venue is still something we need to sort out with both Kihiki and Pirongia. So we'll be working with the team in the next week or two on internally first, just to find some sites that potentially could have some value. We'll then take that to our mana whenua partners just to see how those sites potentially stack up for them and the pros and cons for them. And then we'll take that to each of the Kiki and Parongia communities, which obviously includes Te Paparoa. They're very, very excited. They have got a good base of people really keen to see that go off the ground. So they'll be our eyes and ears out in the community for us there.
Thank you very much, Brad.
We got any other questions? Susan? Oh, sorry, you just spotted your hand there. Thank you.
Thanks. Hey, hi Gina, hi Brad. Hey, thank you for your report, and obviously the enthusiasm with which you are approaching this subject is pretty evident in the way that you present it and what have you. And I'm fully in support of that. But a couple of questions. Firstly, in terms of the engagement strategy, is this something that's been devised, funded, and staffed through comms, or is it something that that you guys have put together? And secondly, have we had communication with Coast Board CBR? You know, Craig and Lee Ingham. They might be able to shed some light on you know, hooking up with people who in the Te Awamutu skate world might be worth knowing.
I can talk to the part with Craig and Lee Ingham. No, I haven't been in touch with them. So I guess the process that I went through was I went to who submitted to the LTP with councillors. So, and then sort of used their sort of guidance. So yeah, I've got a couple of adults, like obviously Regan's really keen to be involved in that. Then Nick Taylor as well, who we probably know his vehicle or his site more than him from Bow Repairs, or I mean Bridgestone. God, can we get that right? Bridgestone. So he kind of lives down there, and he's really passionate. So he's involved. But yeah, look, I'm happy as if you know you think that the crew at CBR you know can add some light to that. I'm happy as to contact them. And we were also waiting for Ants, our designer, who is obviously involved in that skate world, to come back with a couple of potential names as well. So, but yeah, awesome. Absolutely happy to follow that up. Sorry.
So CBR are the only place in town that sell skateboards. That's also okay.
Yeah, cool. And as far as the media, the comms plan, like yes, that has been produced by our comms team. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Thanks for that.
And just to follow up on that, so the three-pronged approach is what the designer sort of suggested. He's done some work in the Melville and Norton skate bowls, and that's sort of how they ran the engagement there quite successfully. And he's also pulled in the Gemmell brothers. I'm not sure if anyone knows the Gemmell brothers from Te Awamutu. They're quite good skaters from back in the day. So they've had some early involvement in the preliminary design as well.
Awesome. Yeah, it's kind of quite a unique sort of, or yeah, different sort of an engagement, isn't it? You know, it's something that's specific and boutique or unique, if you like, in terms of what people are asking for and seeking. So yeah, I totally understand your three-prong approach. That's great. Awesome. Thanks very much for that.
Cool. Richard, you've got a question?
Yeah, for Brad and Gina, thanks for your report, and hello, Brad. Yeah, there was a really good plan drawn up for the park. How is that going to change, and is there going to be 2 or 3 more plans, and where's that cost come, well, where's the payment come from for that? If you're going to engage all the kids, because kids have different ideas very much from adults.
Yeah, that's right, Richard. That's why we're sort of going for the three-pronged approach, is to try and draw those in, try not to leave any gaps behind. Something that I've learned in my previous experience with skate parks is that they've all got different ideas, and they're never quite happy with it unless it's their idea. So it's going to be quite hard to sort of play that out, but that's why we are bringing the designer along with us to those engagement sessions, so he can speak to the users exactly. So, you know, we've designed this preliminary design. It's based on the site location, the site terrain, and the geography, and the geotechnical, and also the budget that we've got for it. So he'll be able to sort of provide that, and then as they give ideas, he can say, yep, that could work here, or no, that won't work here, and what's going to come out or what's going to come in. So have that really interactive discussion with them. In terms of the design, we've had the concept refresh in the last year, so that was for the whole park, and that sort of allocated spaces. Now we're getting more into the detail of exactly what's going to be on site on the skate park part of it.
Okay, thank you.
So the cost is all inclusive. As part of the LTP last year, there was $120,000 for year one for these investigations with the community and the design.
Cool.
If I can, through the chair, I think what Gina and Brad have said, the key is having a designer on board. There is a different lingo, there is a different design that's required that is very unique, and it is really important to get the transitions, to get everything right so it works as a skate park for the community. So that's the approach that the team are taking with that, which is to get a great outcome for our community as well.
Okay, so have we got any other questions? I just had something that I wanted to ask. Oh, Gary.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Gina and Brad. Yeah, what a great presentation. I'm a pensioner now, so a little bit out of my area of expertise in terms of the interest field that we're discussing here. But what I'm really impressed,
Gary, don't rule it out.
I'd fall off of the first hurdle there, Brad. I'm most impressed with the engagement process that you guys have put together and working your way through. So even though it's not my area of expertise there, I think you have a very robust process. So I'm absolutely delighted to hear that. So I take my hats off to both of you.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks. And look, I'll just add to that, like I've
Gina,
made some calls to some of I've just made some calls to some of the names that have been given, and obviously going through parents just to make sure that it's okay. And I think out of the 10 calls I've made, I've had 5 parents say, oh, what about us? We want to be involved too. So that's really cool. Like, it's not just the kids, it's the families that support the kids to go do what they do. So, the connected community, that's what we're about building. So that's a really cool opportunity, and yeah, pretty privileged to be a part of it.
Nice. Hey, thanks, Gina. So yeah, I'd just like to reiterate what Gary said. For me, the way that you guys are going about this and involving the community and the people using the space at this very early grassroots level, I think is absolutely awesome. And so I'm really excited to see how this whole adventure pans out, and really stoked with that. I just had a quick question around the kaitiaki. Will the Te Paparoa group be involved in that kaitiaki group, or?
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're setting up a kaitiaki group for each park. So just as that process goes, but yeah, absolutely. Dovey and Francis and I are in contact all of the time. So when it comes to pulling that together, when we're at that stage for that park, then absolutely they will be involved, and they'll be my go-to around who, what, where and how. So yeah.
Awesome, cool, because I know they have done a lot of work, and it'd be great to see them involved there. And then just, sorry to be a dingbat, but just looking at your little chart about when and where, so on the 25th of October, you've got 4 to 5:30, and then TBC on the 23rd. Can you just sort of clarify how that fits and which is what's which?
Sorry, yes. So that I just spoke to that before. So we can email these date changes out. So it was just they were put out, and then we were just waiting on the designer to come back and confirm his availability. So we are locked in for Wednesday, the 27th of October, which is just obviously the Wednesday after Labour weekend from 4 till 5:30. Yeah. And then also to the 23rd of October from 1:30 till 3.
Right, so you're doing 2. Yep. Yeah, so there's 2 events at the same venue.
2 events at the same venue and different times, obviously, one after work, one during the weekend, just to try and, get different, potentially. We could get different people at the park at that time. So, yeah.
No, good idea.
Yep.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was just being a dingy about I just wasn't sure with the TBC. It kind of threw me whether you meant there were 2 events here in Yawamutu, and I just wasn't sure whether one of those dates actually affected Cambridge, but that was really why I wanted to clarify. application. But thank you very much.
Awesome.
So if we haven't got any other questions, thank you very much. Great report. Really looking forward to seeing this roll out, as I've already said. And thanks so much for giving up your time to come and speak to your report tonight, both Brad and Gina. So thanks heaps, guys, and good luck with this project.
Awesome.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so now we get to pages 35 to 44. And we have a cane of motion, sorry, a notice of motion from Kane Titchener. Kane, how about before we move anything that we just hand over to you, and maybe you can speak to, you know, like where you're coming from, give us a little bit more background if you have, in regard to why Timaru chose to not go with local government New Zealand. Just so we've got a little bit more clarity around that would be really great.
Yeah, so this came to my attention. Just before I do that, I just want to understand why the recommendation has been added and Council's Three Waters reform submission to LGNZ. How did that come about? Can one of the governance team help me out with that one? Because I don't know.
Sorry. No, that's just a typo. Sorry. It should be that the Timaru Community Board recommend that Waipawa District Council leave local government New Zealand. Oh, sorry, hang on. Bear with me just one moment, please.
Whereabouts you're talking, Kane? Specifically.
There was two recommendations, wasn't there? There was to receive the two sets of information, and then the other one was the notice of motion.
So I didn't put anything in about the Three Waters.
Yep, but it's attached just to supplement. It's not. It is separate from your notice of motion, but it is information that's linked to it. So because it's part of potentially the same discussion, that you're receiving it at the same time. So it's just to receive the information. It doesn't affect your notice of motion in any way.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. So yeah, so my view on this whole Three Waters thing is that if the council does not take a really, really hard line on this and actually take some really firm action, that we're going to get Three Waters, right? So that's my view of it. And this is what's happened with other issues around water. And because council doesn't seem to want to put up any sort of fight or actually push back in a really firm way, we're just going to get Three Waters. So my view on this is just came across Timaru District Council voted to leave the local government New Zealand, basically because local government New Zealand was a mouthpiece for the DIA in terms of just pushing this through. And I've seen this in other areas too with local government New Zealand. Stuart Crosby said that he was the mayor of Tauranga for, I think it was 12 years, I'm guessing with that, but I think so. And over that period of time, he had a referendum on fluoridation twice, and the community said no twice. And then he finally said, when we've got this mandate to come through, that's coming through shortly, that we finally got the answer that we're looking for. So this is the thinking out of local government New Zealand. And what I'm saying is that this is a all this is a recommendation to council. Council can take it or leave it. My view is that council won't do anything with it because they're sort of yellow bellies, but that's fine. It's another story. But I think this is something that we need to actually push forward as part of the community speaking up on it. And I just, yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, so have we got any questions for Kane in relation to that? Hey, and just before I do go on, Kane, if I can just note, can you just refrain from using names? I know you're frustrated, but yeah, if you can just refrain from calling council names, that would be much appreciated.
Sorry, which one was it?
Oh, Yellow Belly, I think.
Yellow Belly.
It's a good one.
Yeah, but I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so have we got, okay, Lou, fire away, please.
I don't know where to start. Just quietly, I feel quite strongly about this. I've organised meetings, as you well know, in town about Three Waters. We have sent I thought, a very good submission to the DIA and to the government. We have our mayor sitting, unfortunately, on Zone 2 representative to the LNGZ, but I do think that we've got to remain on that body. The simple fact of life here is that if we remove ourselves and do what Timaru did, we lose the ability to have communication. We as a local council or as a Waipa District Council would have a very minuscule role in the statements to the government. But if we stay within LNGZ, we will have at least a collective role. We're finding at the moment, and Mayor Jim has stated that quite a number of councils are actually in the same position we are. We are not happy with the recommendation. We'll say that straight up and down. You were sitting listening to what we all said and what Mayor Jim said on last Monday. So we are not happy with the current thing. We are worried that we will lose our assets and we do not have the representation with it. So we've put that in our submission, which follows, I see, in your appendices. And I think if you've all read that, you would see that that is what we are trying to get across to DIA. The problem I have is that if we pass this, you will actually find that all it will do is allow us to have this interaction between council and community board of negativity. And I don't think that's going to be great for anyone because the media will jump in on it. And I feel honestly strongly that I think what the councillors are trying to do at this stage is remain connected, to remain positive, but we are objecting to what is being implemented against us. So I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Lou. Has anyone else got anything, Susan? Or
yeah, look, I just want to reinforce what Lou said. I think we've been pretty direct about our collective disapproval of the reform, and that we have to remember that LGNZ is an industry body, and as much as the Three Waters reform is a really big issue, there are other issues at play, and it's better that we be associated with our industry body to lobby and be involved in the other issues as well. So it's not just the one issue driving the whole ship, so to speak. And as much as I think I'll go out on a limb and say that there was a fair amount of discomfort with LGNZ's position at times around the memorandum of understanding in connection with these Three Waters reform, I think it would be really knee-jerk and extreme to withdraw our involvement with the industry body, because there's a much bigger, broader scheme of reform in play here. I understand your frustration, though. We share it too, Kane. But I just think that there are bigger issues at play than that one issue. But I agree with what Lou said.
Okay, thanks, Susan. Gary, you had a comment to make.
Yeah, I did, through you, Madam Chair. Look, Kane, I appreciate your sentiments entirely behind this. When I looked at or was made aware of Timaru's situation there, my immediate reaction was, what a knee-jerk reaction this is down there. I don't think these guys have looked at the big picture. And in terms of representation, we need representation here. Now, we need a common body, which gives us strength in numbers. The moment we start stepping out on our own, we become a lone voice. Certainly aligned with Timaru, but in terms of effectiveness with what we're trying to achieve, I don't think it's going to fly. So while I support your sentiments, Kane, on this one here, I'm certainly behind what Lou and Susan have spoken to on this one here, and I think it's way better if we remain in our industry body.
Cool, thanks, Gary. Richard, did you have something further?
Yeah, I think all councils have been hamstrung with the way this government has forced the issue on a number of topics as well. And I think 68 groups versus which has a voice covering the whole of the country is far more powerful than having one or two who don't agree with it and go out on their own. I understand where you're coming from, Kane, but I think leaving LGNZ is not the way forward for us to push for things that are going to work for us. And we need a lot more information before decisions can be made, I believe.
Okay, thanks, Richard. Okay, so in light of that, there's overwhelming what's what I want support there for not proceeding with this motion at this time. But Kane, it is your motion, so if you want to move it, you can, or else if you'd like to withdraw it, that is an option. We do definitely need to receive the notice of motion though from you. So if I can ask you to move that we receive the notice of motion in the Council's 3 water reform submission to LGNZ, that would be great. So is that all right with you to move that, Kane?
No, I'm going to leave that. I'll bring it up when 3 waters goes through.
Okay, so, all right, can I please have someone to move that we've received that notice of motion? Gary, thank you. Richard, second. All those in favour? Yep, against? Carried. So on from there, Kane, just from me, yes, I do share your frustration and sentiments. Having come back from community board conference, LGNZ actually were the ones that highlighted the importance of us making sure we got the right information about the water reforms and the RMA. So I'm not sure if that, with my knowledge, as limited it is in this space, I don't believe LGNZ are the right ones to disengage from. But definitely if there's a better way of doing it further down the track, but I think that we need to give council a bit of a go on this because they have written a really good submission, and so my preference would be just to sit tight for a little bit, and if we need to revisit it a little bit later in the year or early next year, yeah, let's definitely bring it back up again. And thank you for the opportunity to just talk about this again and air our views around this 3 waters stuff, because it is very, very important. So we'll leave that motion off for this evening. Okay, so that takes us to Richard's motion on pages 45 to 46. And so Richard, we'll just go straight to you to just have a quick chat about what you're proposing here and your reasons behind it. And then we'll have a quick chat and move the motions.
Yeah, I get a little frustrated with the with people using the term the Bunnings, ex-Bunnings car park when Bunnings didn't do any favours for Waipa. And I think that they have left the district, a bit like Elvis, and they don't deserve any more naming. They don't deserve to be named anymore. So I'd like to see the car park name changed. It can't be changed to Tiarawai at this stage, but yeah, one of the alternatives is quite fine. I actually quite like the Yarrawater Street car park as a name for it, but as it says in the sentence underneath, that if it is going to, if we do support that, that I would like to see all council notices and directions actually name that as the car park name, not the ex-Bunnings.
Okay, so Lou,
Madam Chair, through you, I'm quite supportive of this. I think that the existing name of using Bunnings is not really a realistic thing. Why I can't see why we can't call it Te Arawai. It's what it was going to be delegated for, but I think council staff and everybody should just, not continue with the use of the Bunnings site. Use it as Te Arawai, or as Richard suggested, Arawata Park or Scout Lane Car Park, or even 244 Arawata Street.
Okay. Anyone else got any comments in regard to renaming the, I wanted to say Bunnings Car Park. Sorry, Richard, I was just blundered in there straight away.
Madam Chair, I'll second.
So has no one else got anything further to comment in regard to that, Gary?
I'm
Sorry,
surprised.
Susan, you after that.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised this is a motion. To be honest, it was the Bunnings building. People will simply use whatever that they choose there to remind them of the location of that facility, whether it's the car park or whether it's the building. It's colour steel. It's in there. It's in their colours. If you say to people they're at Water Street, the car park, they'll go where, and you go to the Bunnings building. So until it changes into something else, by which time they'll most likely call it the museum car park or the museum. I'm sure that's how it's going to go. So I'm quite perplexed that this has made it to the agenda, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Right, so has anyone else got anything further? Susan?
I just want to say that I completely agree with you, Richard. It's kind of frustrating that it has lingered, the old Bunnings thing, but until it becomes something else, it's probably going to be that way in people's minds, which is kind of annoying. But I'm more than happy to support the idea of trying to socialise the idea that it's now called the Arawata Street Car Park. I think that's probably a sensible way forward. I can't really call it the vaccination centre car park, can you? It's probably a little bit unappealing, but yeah, Arawata Street I'm more than happy with.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get that motion moved then. So first off, is it okay that we just run these together? It is, isn't it? Kieran or Joe?
Yeah, it should be okay. We can do an A and a B, that the Te Awamutu Community Board received the notice of motion, and that the notice of motion, yeah. Yep,
thank you. Okay, so that the Te Awamutu Community Board received the notice of motion of Board Member Hurrell, and that the Te Awamutu Community Board recommends that Council and Council staff formally name the car park that was for a short time associated with Bunnings, the Arawata Street Car Park. Oh, but just quickly before we do move that, if this goes through, Arawata Street Car Park is the preferred option of a suggestion. We're okay with that? Cool. So as is, Richard, would you like to move that, seeing as it's your motion? Yep, Richard, someone to second that, please. Lou? Okay, so all in favour of calling it the Arawata Street Car Park? Lou, yep.
Aye.
Okay, against? So we've got Gary. Okay, so well, that means we've got that will be carried. So officially we are now calling the Bunnings car park the Arawata Street car park, or at least we're making a recommendation to council to call it that. My final comment on it is going to be a hard sell, because I think, like Gary points out, people will refer to it as they do. However, I suppose, a recommendation to council to encourage them in their comms to be calling it something different is at least starting the ball rolling to us thinking of it as something other than Bunnings. So we'll see how successful this is. Right, so I just need to, sorry, bear with me, just jump onto a second computer to move my run sheet up. So we now move to pages 47 to 49, which is our Treasury Report. So we'll take that as read, that the Treasury Report for the Te Awamutu Community Board of Nader Milne, Financial Accountant for the period ended 31st of August 2021 be received. So we can have someone to move that for me, please. Gary, seconder. Richard, thank Thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. So have we got any comments quickly in regard to that report?
Just that I hope you all received, there was an update on that report from what was originally sent out last week. There were a couple of commitments that were made in the September meeting that were included in the report that shouldn't have been, because the report obviously ends at the 31st of August. So that has been updated, and so the amount sitting in the coffers is officially $62,451.44, but we have removed about 23,000 out of that last month for the just community discretionary funds.
Cool. Thanks for that, Kieran, and appreciate you guys getting that sorted out for us in a relatively very short space of time. So much appreciated. So if we haven't got any further comments in regard to the discretionary grant, our financial report, we'll move along to the discretionary funds, and we've got the Awamutu Rose Society Incorporated again back on our agenda, and also Rotary, so for the Christmas parade. So let me just jump to the right page. We've actually got Rotary up first, even though my run sheet's the other way around. So Rotary are once again wanting funds for our Christmas parade. This year, I believe they were asking for $6,000 to go towards the running of their event. So comments in regard to that application, please. Gary, start the ball rolling.
Yeah, I'll kick off with this one, Madam Chair. Look, really, really interesting. I had a really good look through the application. A couple of things popped out at me, and I think, I guess, first thing is that, look, we need to support the organisation Rotary, because this is our flagship event, which we support, and I think that they are deserving of support from us financially. The other interesting thing that I saw in that report was that in terms of sponsorship and calling the event what it is, I was interested to see that Core Steel, who are one of their major sponsors there, are actually providing less, or have provided less by way of financial input than what we did last year. And we have this situation arising again of recognition for the financial support which we give this particular event. And I certainly would like to support them, but I certainly would like to insist on that recognition again as the major and primary financial supporter of this event. So yep, all good for me, but making sure we get that recognition which we so often deserve, but it's not received.
Thanks, Gary. Other comments from the rest of the board in regard to this application? Kane, then Richard.
Yeah, I spoke to Chris Kay yesterday, and just had just a conversation about some things that were going on. So they've got term deposits which are quite hefty. I'm not sure, are they? Yep, about 110 grand. Just asked him about that, because should those funds not be used for things like this now? He said originally those funds were put away. The interest was to be used on donations for other, things that they get involved with. But he did say that with the interest rate so low, that could be better use, change of strategy there. So I think we should be giving to them. I think a similar amount to last year is probably adequate, and I agree with Gary that to get some bit more recognition would be good. I talked about what level would they be running at, and he said at level 1 they're only going to run at level 1. So I wonder if we have a bit of a condition on our fundraised funding. If it doesn't go ahead, that we get it back, or just see where we're at with it.
Yeah, it should come back anyway, would be my understanding, because it's been given for this specific purpose and they can't reuse it.
I understand that, but Dave, it's been 24-hour notice and going up levels, etc. Right? So just something to think about. Yep,
no, good point. Richard?
Yeah, we've supported them well over the years, and with previous groups and in previous boards, it's been even higher than that. But I do not see that we should be providing them money for prizes. I don't think that's a good use of public money. And there's also one for entertainment that has popped up from that hasn't been around in previous years as well. I don't know what that's about.
Oh yeah, that might be. Sometimes previously they've had like entertainers in the actual parade. You know, like they've had did they have stilt walkers one time? And they've had. I know they did have them a few years ago. I don't know if they were there last year, but I wonder if that's what that is.
Yeah, I agree with what Kane said, about the same level as last year.
Okay, great. Susan or Lou, did you have anything you wanted to comment about this application?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit. Just a couple of things. I just want to make it, we've actually discussed with Gary and the road management program, or their roads that will actually be paid for by council. I would just suggest the same as Richard, that the prizes, you can actually get prizes, donations from companies. We actually, when I was working at Norwood, supplied prizes for that particular parade quite regularly and got involved with it. The other thing I looked at too was advertising, and surely this is a community thing that we could use the council advertising regime or their media team to actually do that for us a little. They could probably relieve that cost quite a lot. So I'm in agreement with Kane for once. Good, well done, Kane, and say that the 3,000 is probably about my limit.
Okay, Susan, did you have anything to add before we go to the vote?
Yeah, nothing significant. I'm a little bit perplexed. I mean, it's doubled the amount that they're seeking is doubled from what we provided last year. So I'm comfortable with somewhere in the vicinity of where we've supported them in the past. I struggle to understand the justification of doubling that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think they've previously asked us for around $5,000 or $6,000. I think it was like 5.5 or 6 last year as well, but we've just come back and given them around this 3 kind of mark, I think is where we came back to, because of the same reasons that we've raised again this year pretty much.
That rings a bell. And I think the previous organisers, we gave them sort of something somewhere in the vicinity of about the same kind of money as well, didn't we?
Yeah, so we'd had a bit of an agreement in the end with the previous Christmas parade committee to fund them up to $5,000.
Yeah, it would roll over and they'd give us what they didn't spend. Yeah, so I sort of feel like $6,000 is probably a little bit on the heavy side. But yeah, like I'm not sure who it was, Gary saying that it was one of our flagship events. Totally agree. You can't have Christmas without a Christmas parade.
No, I'm definitely in
we
favour
can't be the
of it.
We can't be the Grinches. Come on, people.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't want to be Jim Carrey the second. So, okay, does someone want to start with a figure? Are we going 3 or 3.5? Just give me a bit of a starting point.
I'm 3, Madam Chair.
3, okay, let's go with that. So let's put down that we'll give the Rotary $3,000 towards the Christmas parade. Just checking, do I need to move these separately, please?
No, once you've got it, it's all part of that one motion.
Yep, no, nice. Thought so. I was just double checking that I read that correctly. Okay, so on to the Rose Society. So this one was just the revisit one from our original batch.
Just before you start that.
Yep, sure.
We need to vote on that one.
No, that was what I was just checking with Kieran, and she said we can put them through together.
Put them through, but we've got to vote on each one separately, surely.
Oh, as to whether we agreed with the 3,000?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes, of course. Yep. Good catch, Richard. Thank you. All those in favour of giving Te Awamutu Rotary $3,000 to go towards the Christmas parade? All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Okay, carried. So we have definitely all agreed on $3,000. Okay, so back to the Rose Society. So as I was saying, they were just applying for funding for their Rose Show. So it's what's the 58th annual Rose Show. The ladies have been in and clarified a few of those points that we were a little bit confused about at the time, which was why we wanted this to come to this meeting. So have we got any comments around this application, please? Gary?
I've got $2,000 for them, Madam Chair. Fully support what they're doing.
Okay. Anyone else got any other comments or any differences in the amounts? Are we all happy to do $2,000, or have we got some different amounts wanting to be given here?
Happy with 2,000.
Happy with 2? Richard?
Yep.
Yep. Lou? Yep. Susan? Okay. All right. I'll go with the flow. So if everyone's happy with $2,000, we'll just move that we give them $2,000. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. So done deal. So let's just move that motion as a whole, so that the Te Awamutu Community Board received the information contained in the report discretionary fund allocations, sorry, I'm on the roll tonight, of Kieran Phillips, Governance Officer. B, we allocate grants from the Community Discretionary Fund as stated in the following schedule. So we've agreed Te Awamutu Rose Society to receive $2,000 and Rotary Te Awamutu to receive $3,000. So if I can have someone to move both of those parts, please.
So moved.
Richard and Gary, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, so we have some inwards correspondence on page 61. So if we can just have someone to please move that we've received the correspondence council decision on the wastewater trade waste bylaw 2021 from Graham Pollard, strategic projects driver, be received. Got someone to move that, Gary? Thank you. Richard, second. You guys got tired arms tonight. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. So is there any discussion or comments that anyone wanted to make around that? No, we're all good. Okay, on to the next thing. Pages 62 to 64 was the chairperson's report. So first up, I was keen to support the RSA and the War Memorial Park Committee Armistice Day event on November the 11th and also again on Sunday the 14th at the Te Awamutu War Memorial Park, and get that fountain working. I have had a little chat to Sally and she thinks it should be doable. So Sally, most importantly, have you got any comments in regard to why we shouldn't do it, I suppose, that would be relevant?
Just through the chair, I have passed on the request through to the parks team who were going to look at it on site this week. So they were going to give it their best go as such and aim to have that operating for you on those days that you've asked for.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. So yeah, if we could, I'll move that the Te Awamutu Community Board recommends to council staff that the Peace Fountain at the War Memorial Park is in working order for the RSA Armistice Day commemoration events on 11 and 14th of November. If I can have someone to second that. Gary, thank you. All in favour?
Aye. Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, thank you. And thanks, Sally, and to you and the Parks team. And if all else fails, Mark Dawson definitely knows how to make it go with a piece of green hose pipe.
Yeah.
Might be not quite as flash.
Thanks, Ange.
You're welcome. Right, so I did catch up with Paula and Shane regarding the main street. And as I said in my report, we started talking about the main street and what we'd like to have done there. And then next thing we found ourselves talking about the identity of Te Awamutu. And it's kind of appropriate that we've been talking about Rosetown and roses. But we sort of got to the point where, is it time that we tried again to have a look at the identity of Te Awamutu? And these guys are really keen. Shane's got a branding background. I've had a brief discussion with the Te Awamutu Chamber, and they are definitely interested. I've had a little chat with Bill Harris from Maniapoto, Ngāti Apakura, I should say. He's certainly pricked his ears up and thought that there was some opportunity there to definitely give us a bit of a zhuzh up, and in that process, you know, take some of the mana whenua considerations in our kaupapa Māori heritage and bring those into the picture. So just wondering what you all thought about this idea, and if it's something that, you know, you would like to see us get involved in, and just see what the community thinks. So have we got anyone that wants to comment? Or
Yep, that's a good idea. We should go for it.
Cool, thanks, Kane. Oh no, that's not Richard. It's a picture in the background. It looked like you'd put your hand up. There's a picture that's got a thing just in the back. Sorry. Gary, did you want to say something?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Look, we have revisited this not too long ago, and despite my grey hair, my memory is still pretty clear on this one. And I think we acknowledged, as much as I support the Rose Society being revamped in the interim, and I think that deserves our support. Thank you for that. I believe that we are more than just the Rose Town. The Rose Society, I think, was instigated sometime in the 60s by a couple of key people in town, which is fine. But prior to that, we have a massive history. There's a massive historical significance which makes Te Awamutu quite unique. Much along the lines of the frontier town, that sort of thing there, which is going to tie in with Te Arawai. And I think that discussion and the conversation that we had there back in the day is still very, very relevant. So I'd certainly be very supportive of canvassing the views and engaging the community to give us their thoughts on using all the media that we can, so that we get a very, very clear picture as to where we're going here. I'm also aware that we have some very strong traditionalists who will be supporting the Rosetown concept for quite some time, who have businesses involved, and long-established businesses as well, that rely on that identity. So there will be some pushback from those people. But yeah, I think it's time that we revisit that and just see what the community appetite for that conversation is, Madam Chair.
Cool, thanks, Gary. Did anyone else have anything? I did just think of one other point I wanted to mention in there. So when we were talking about the idea, we really wanted to give community the opportunity, a bit like what's happening with the skate park, to be involved right from the beginning and say how they saw Te Awamutu as an identity. But during that discussion, Shane has just got a little idea that was around marrying the roses with the heritage. And he had some quite neat ideas, and there might potentially be something even in that space that could come from this, that there is the possibility of marrying the roses as being the European influence here, and then having more of a historical, cultural Te Ao Māori view, and what's the word I want, identity involved with that. And just as a quick idea, one of the things, and that we had this potentially beautiful po that could be situated leading down to Te Arawai, but it could be decorated around the base with bright red roses that represent the blood that fell in our area back during the land wars. So you could tie in significance that way. But that's getting a little bit of ahead, because, as I say, we really want to focus on what the community comes up with as a starting place. So yeah, if I was able to move a recommendation, I have got something prepared, which I've gone and mismothered. That would be right.
Through you, Madam Chair, can I just make a wee comment? So for those of us who have sat on this long enough, we know that this has sort of been an exercise or an issue that's been rolling around for some time, and unfortunately, it has been, well, not unfortunately, quite obviously, it's been linked to the emergence, the creation of Te Arawai, which and linked to the importance in terms of our local history. Unfortunately, for whatever reasons, Te Arawai hasn't emerged in the timeframes that we were hoping it could have been. But I kind of don't want to go rehashing stuff that we actually already know. I mean, there was a lot of work done by this board some years ago. You remember it, Ange? And
yeah, absolutely.
And Richard. So I kind of don't want to necessarily rehash that, but so I wonder if there's an exercise to be done. It's kind of pulling together the work that's been done previously, and then maybe we can take restock again as a community board, find out, pull all of that information together, because there are members around our community board now who weren't, and probably staff too, to an extent, who aren't particularly across all of that historical work. And then maybe we make a decision about how we go forward as a board. It's a frustrating one. It's something that I've always been really annoyed about, particularly the entrances to the town, and for want of a better word, the branding of the town. But I just sort of don't think it's appropriate to go off a half-cocked and think, oh, well, this is a great idea, let's go down this avenue. I think there's been a lot of work done. There's historically a lot of people have invested in the process, and I think as much as we're sort of in a bit of a pause right now, I think it might just pay to pull together all of the information that we've currently done, the work that's been done around it, and then make a more of a strategic or have some discussions and make a strategic plan going forward about how we then put that into play in the absence of perhaps Te Arawai coming, or in the knowledge that Te Arawai is coming.
Yep, okay. So interestingly, we did talk about some of the historic information, and Shane was very keen to try and locate as much of that as possible to bring into the mix, so that finding out what the community thought and what sort of ideas they wanted to provide would be a component of the bigger picture. And so, yeah, I definitely believe from the way from that initial discussion that is very much needs to be a part of it, as does involvement with iwi as well. So I think that we can take on board and incorporate what you're speaking of, Susan, in with finding out, just getting a good feeling for the community. And the suggestion was to use one of the Waikato University students to actually do that part of it, so that we could get a really good, relevant, current feeling from the community as one part, and then bring in that information like what you're suggesting to put the whole project together. I think that that's really important, an important part of it. Gary?
Yeah, look, I tend to agree. Thanks for that, Susan. It was a good reminder. We actually had a very, very good momentum, and more of it's coming back into my collective thinking here at the moment. We had good momentum going in that direction, and because of what happened with the Shane Jones funding not materialising and all those sorts of things, it became one of those initiatives that one of the ones that these board, or several that the board has been involved in the past, where we have a full head of steam, and then for whatever reason it comes to a screeching halt, and then the details of the discussion and the work that had been done starts to tail off and becomes forgotten. So I think Susan, in terms of a strategic direction, has talks a lot of sense. So and the more I think about it, the more information that we had come together, and I now start to remember the work that had gone into it, and some of the some of the graphics that were put together, and there was a massive amount of stuff. So the cohesion that was there at the time there has been dissipated just a wee bit. So love to get that back on board again, Madam Chair, if we can.
Cool. So then, if I was to move a recommendation, Sally, sorry.
Sorry,
then
just through the chair, if I can. So I think at the meeting where this was presented, there was due to be a conversation with the transport team around the gardens and the streetscape. I'm not sure if that has occurred or not, but also just recognising, I suppose, in terms of the outcomes that you're trying to achieve, is just recognising that there is most probably no funding or staff availability to support this work. And so I suppose it's if you're wanting to progress that should be a consideration for you. In year 2 of the LTP, Te Arawai is funded from year 2. So what we're currently doing with Te Arawai at the moment is just resetting that project, reconnecting with the new site that we have, and then works will start to commence on that project. So just wanted to give you an update on timing for Te Arawai, but I think it's also really important to note that at the moment, unfortunately, and I have heard just for my short time on the community board and supporting you, the frustrations around those entries, around that identity within Yawamutu. So I understand that, but also recognise that it hasn't been funded through the LTP that I can recall. So just needed to make that note as well.
Cool, no, definitely noted. And from, again, these initial discussions that I've had, I don't believe that there would be a huge need for funding from council at this point. As I say, the student is provided for free. We could put, between the chamber, for example, and the community board and other interested parties. I've got another lady who's very keen to get involved as well, that if we could create a little working group to start ticking away at it, then maybe we can have some of the, we can take our time to do the preliminary work, get that happening, pull in that historical information, and then we might be ready to have a little plan or some recommendations to put forward to council to then work on. But for what we're proposing at the moment, I don't see there being a huge request for any substantial funding at this point. So on that, I would like to recommend that the Te Awamutu Community Board creates a working group to engage community to get a clear indication of what the identity of Te Awamutu is from a community perspective, and to include the historical data with the goal to create an agreed brand for the future. So do you want me to run that back again? Yep. Okay, so the recommendation is that the Te Awamutu Community Board creates a working group to engage community to get a clear indication of what the identity of Te Awamutu is from a community perspective, and including the historical data with the goal to create an agreed brand for the future. If you got some suggestions on rewording it, it's kind of, I'm trying to include that historical data part, and it's kind of throwing it out of whack a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, well, because I'm not entirely sure that we really, do we want to re-engage on this? Because we've got a pretty clear idea from the fantastic work that Susan Trodden did and our own comprehensive workshops, series of workshops some years ago. The only reason why nothing much has happened is, as Gary pointed out, things beyond our control. And I kind of don't sense, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't sense there's any particular shift away from where we arrived at all those, what was it, maybe 3 or 4 years ago?
5, 6 years ago.
Well, no, not that quite that long. It was in my time, and I've not been here that long. I think it'd be closer to, we're in the 2nd year of the training, so maybe 3 years ago.
So Susan wasn't there 3 years ago. We've had 2 chamber CEOs since then. But anyway, let's not get caught up with how long
I think
ago.
it's 3, maybe 4 years tops.
Yeah.
so I don't understand why we would need to go out. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. Is there a perceived change in what we believe our communities see Te Awamutu as, a change from what it was three, four, however many years ago? Because I personally think that's a waste of people's time and energy to go and relitigate something that we know the answer to. I think I like the idea of a working group, but I think their focus on trying to find something out that we already know is kind of a waste of their time. So I think that there are better things that they can be doing than trying to find out exactly what we already know.
And as far as this work that Susan did, so she had a student who got a response from I think 60 people was all that he actually got his survey data based off. Those workshops that we did weren't that well attended. I know the chamber one was quite disappointing. So I think my feeling, and Shane and Paula, was around, it gives us a really good opportunity to give our community the opportunity to comment. And I think we can do a better job of asking them and getting their participation this time round. And I just, for me personally, I feel that it could be a really good opportunity for us to be leading something and directly engaging with our community about something that hopefully is important to them. I'd like to think, we'd like to think that the identity of our town is something that people are passionate about. And so that was our reasoning behind it. If we've got someone doing it as a project, I don't know if it's doing a lot of harm. I can only see a benefit in it as opposed to any harm in it.
So if I can just say, again, through the chair around that, I agree with your sentiments, Ange. I suppose, as I raised earlier around funding, it's most probably the outcome that you're trying to achieve with the working group. And if there isn't a project, but we put that into either the LTP or an annual plan round to get funding, then that gives you the outcome. So I suppose if I'm just listening to what the other members are saying is, really ensuring if you want to set up a working group, it's clear on what the outcome you're achieving, to make sure that people don't get further frustrated as I sense you are now with the delay that's been caused to date with getting something done.
Okay, thanks, Sally. Gary, you had your hand up.
Look, I certainly take Susan's point in the sense that there was a massive amount of discussion and there was an appetite and a lot of community communication and engagement back at the time. I personally haven't seen from the community any particular appetites to revisit that since the Te Arawai project stalled. But in the same breath, I would also say, there's no harm in I guess taking the temperature of the community to see what sort of appetite there is there. Whether you do it by way of a working group, not entirely sure whether it would be by way of your own chair's report to the community, Madam Chair. That may be one way of putting your toe in the water. But I am aware there was a massive amount of work done, and there was a lot of collaboration back in the day, and everybody was on the same page, heading in the right direction. Was my last recollection before everything stalled. So, yep, support your sentiments. Not sure whether a working group to achieve something specific there is the right way to go, but definitely get the conversation started amongst the community. No harm in that.
Okay, so, all right, Richard.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of work being done. Things have stalled. Things are looking like they will move ahead one way or the other in year 2. So I think that's probably an opportune time to go and ask the community what they think when there's something actually likely to happen. Last time it didn't happen with the work that was done by the chamber. no result actually came from it.
Yeah, and
So-
that was, sorry, I interrupted.
So I don't know whether it would gain any, whether there is any traction to be gained from it. The discussion could be had, no problem, but do people want to have their time wasted with no result? Potentially.
I can't answer that because I don't believe it's a waste of time. I think it's an opportunity for us to engage, to find out what people want. There's been a lot of people move into the region. There's been a lot of people move back. We've got a couple of people that are really passionate to get it going. They've already contacted the university to find out how that works. They've spoken to a couple of key people in the community. They're really busting at the seams to get out and actually do some stuff. I personally see it as a great opportunity for us to lead something. It's going to take time to do these things, to pull it all together. So it's probably going to take a good 12 months for anything to happen. And then if we start when the next thing's happening, we're behind the pinball. But yeah, I'm just not quite sure how to word it in such a way to get your support. But what I'm hearing from you guys at the moment is that you're not actually that keen on it. And I probably should go back to these people and say, sorry, community board doesn't want to support it. And yeah, no. Thanks, but no thanks.
Ange, can I interrupt you
Sure.
there and through you?
Yeah.
Look, I don't feel that that's. I think that the community board has always been, perhaps not so much of recent times, but it's always been really keen to try and push this whole branding and identity issue. But it was paused on account of Te Arawai. It became so much of an integral part of the development of Te Arawai that we felt we needed to sit and wait, and we were comfortable with that. Because that's drifted sort of indefinitely for us, I understand the need now to perhaps revisit it. You know, are we going to be linked to that development, or are we going to branch out and try and push our own barrow, so to speak? Bearing in mind that, as Sally said, that we have those budgeting constraints. But and what I guess my point was that, oh shit, I've just lost it. Excuse my swearing.
Oops.
In July 2017 was when we did our I had it on my phone here. We did the workshop, that comprehensive workshop with the comms team, working out what was important to us. So that's July 2017. And my point, I guess my question to you, Ange, was less about throwing the whole thing, put on the shelf. We're not interested. I think we're interested in ascertaining who we are and pushing that in terms of making it relevant to what we see around our town. But I think what we found as being a descriptor of what we were as a town, we've done that work, and I don't want to not so much waste these very eager people's time doing something that's already been done. Let's channel the energy into fulfill it, setting a roadmap to fulfill that, rather than getting them just to rehash the stuff we already know. And don't for a minute see it as trying to dampen their enthusiasm or crush your idea that you're bringing it towards us, because this is very, very relevant and very pertinent. This is what the community board should be and is about. But it's about not wasting people's time as well. And I think we have quite a lot of stuff on that. And I'm really annoyed I lost my little wee picture, because it was July 2017. It was a really cool montage of a whole bunch of different, I will find it, but it probably won't come up across the live feed very well. But you remember it, Gary, with all the spots and dots we just brainstormed with the comms team.
Yes, we did through you, Madam Chair. No, it was really, really good. I thought it was an excellent workshop, and it drew so much stuff from various people and ideas and backgrounds. And I was stoked with the outcome of that one, and I think it's more of a timing issue, Ange. I think it's timing is everything in life. So the idea is there, and I fully support that there. But in terms of its timing, I don't think we're just there just at the moment.
That thing, remember that?
Yeah. No, I do remember that, and that would be definitely great to be included in what we're, into what is going, like potentially could happen. So yeah, I definitely think that, like that was our point of view, wasn't it? That day. So, okay. So basically I just need some direction from everyone. I'm kind of feeling like I'm actually not really very sure. Yes, we think it's a good idea, but no, we don't want to do it at the moment. Is that what you're saying? No? Yes from Gary.
I think it's a good idea, but just the timing is not quite right at the moment. I think it needs to be revisited, Ange. And I agree with Susan on this one here that look, don't be disenchanted by it or disheartened by it. And those people there that have actually come in and have asked to go down this road with you, don't put them off. Absolutely don't put them off. It's relatively complex, and the timing is very, very important on this one.
Okay, so I'm just not really quite clear, sorry, on what I am to tell them. Just do nothing and wait. Is that what you want me to go back and tell them?
Have you got a motion on the floor, Madam Chair?
Well, my motion was that we created a working group to engage the community, and then the wording of that wasn't quite right because I wanted to be able to make sure that there was the inclusion of that historical data, which then led us on this other conversation that we've then gone on to have to try and clarify just, where do we all sit on this?
Can I suggest, Ange, that the motion be that we create a working group, but it's not to engage with the community because we've already got some historic, reasonably recent work done on that. We create a working group that liaises with the Walshes and pulls together the past work done, including Susan Trotton's work, and the work done by this community board, and we sit down with them, and I'm more than happy to be on that working group to go over what has been worked on prior to the Walsh's involvement in this issue, and then then that working group can report back to the community board about what sort of, with a summary, if you like, of where we're at, and then perhaps seeking direction of how the community board would like that working group to go forward with the issue, bearing in mind, of course, as Sally said, we don't have a budget for it.
And I don't think initially, because these people are happy to volunteer, they just want to see things progress outside of being able to get access to that data that we collected. I personally don't see a big cost to council or need of council staff. I mean, unless I'm missing something.
It's more about the implementation of the ideas. That's where the costs
come in. But I think that's when we get to that. We've got to get there first, don't we? So there's no point putting the cart before the horse. So I just really wanted to get something going so that we could, be involved with it. And have a chat to the chamber and see if they'd like to get on board to put a representative on there, because I think having business representation would be important in that working group, along with iwi as well. Gary?
Madam Chair, look, just hearing all the various viewpoints. Look, I'd support it and see where it goes. I'd support it and see how it evolves.
So if I just hang on, so recommendation that the Yawamutu community board creates a working group. I'm just going to rejig this. Sorry, Joe, you're always good at these things.
Sorry, Joe and I are actually working on it at the moment.
Thank you.
I've come up with a very basic one, which says that the Yawamutu Community Board establish a working group to work on the identity of Yawamutu. That's as far as I got so far. Joe?
It depends whether one option is to just kind of leave it at that for this meeting, and then we could come back and in another the next month, and then you could flesh out what they're going to do as well as the membership, because we haven't got the membership already of that. So we could kind of, if you want to do it that way, or we could come up with something generic now. So there's probably two ways of approaching it.
Just with my experience, we've always had to work on a purpose of the working group.
Yeah, a purpose would, well, we could,
Does this recommendation that the Yawamutu Community Board creates a working group to explore the identity of Yawamutu using historical data that has been collected? Am I getting there? No. Right ideas, Susan?
And well, so the working group is not to be just limited to members of the community board, right?
No,
so
yeah.
You want to also add in there, and like, I'm not really good at doing things on the fly in terms of setting scope and things, because it's really not very helpful. You usually end up going down an avenue you don't want to. But
sorry, excuse me, Madam Chair, are we better off to do as Joe suggested the first time, was just leave it as to explore the identity, come back next
with
month
the scope, purpose and membership at the next meeting, and that way we can circulate something around the email around the board. You can kind of toss those ideas around, and then we'll have kind of a much clearer idea, and you'll have had some time to think about scope, parameters, people, those things.
Yeah, I like the idea.
So just to signal it, maybe at this point, or you can signal in a recommendation if you want, or we could just leave it as an action to come back with that as a report for the next meeting.
Either or, doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah, probably 6 of one and half a dozen of the other.
Yeah. Oh, we can certainly just put it on the list to work on.
Let's action it, and then we get a nice, clear recommendation.
That's simple. So we'll start that circulating in terms of getting some framework for you to start putting some bones on to develop that for next month.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So that was that. And then the other one, I just wanted to say thank you to the staff for getting straight back to us in regard to that query for Angela Brown from the Secretary of the Kihikihi Police House in Temple Cottage to be heard at that SPMP meeting. They provided a very comprehensive response to that. So thank you very much. Hold on, sorry, I'm on the wrong page. I just need to double check that. No, that's right. I did just want to make one further comment, and I don't so much think that the problem here is so much that I'm just trying to think the right way to word this, that this is technically correct, that the response that we've received, the engagement with those groups of people, but I think it comes down to the fact that they still really don't feel like they were heard. And I have one additional question in relation to that, and that is, this group came back and said that they wanted more time. Could the meeting be delayed so that they could provide their input to that SPMP meeting? They were told no, it couldn't. But that tower has been in that report since 2013, and it sat there and sat there and sat there. And then when it's come up, it's had to be boom, 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 boom. Like, even we got the report in our community board meeting last month, and we had no time to go and talk to the community before we had to make a decision. Then this group asked for a bit more time, but no, it had to go to SPMP. And I'm just using this as an example, and I'm just raising it as where I'm thinking, is that would it have harmed anybody or anything to have delayed it, let them have their town meeting, let them bring their information and discussion so they could have presented in a deputation, to have put it off till November and then have had done that Turata reserve discussion then? I'm thinking that this is some of the reason that we're getting these negative responses from our community, because we are engaging, but are we listening? Are we meeting their needs? That's my only other part of my comment. But thank you very, very much to the staff, because they did get back to me very, very promptly to get that in, and I really appreciated that. So Thank you. But did anyone else have any comments around that at all? No? Okay. Oh, Gary, sorry.
Yep, a very, very good question, Madam Chair, which has been posed to the members to contemplate, and also to the staff as well, I would guess. I'm aware that there are really, really passionate interest groups out there that perhaps don't hear things until the last minute, and then they realise that there are also complementary ideas out there from individuals that they haven't come into contact with before, and they need to, I guess, rally themselves. So it's a question. It's out there for contemplation and for thinking about as a way forward, just to make sure that nobody gets missed out. So thank you for raising it, but no other comments from me at the moment. I think it's good.
Cool. Thanks, Gary. Okay, so if we've got no further comments there, I better move that my chairperson's report has been received. And we've already moved that recommendation for the Peace Fountain, so I've fluffed that up. So yeah, I'll just move that my report be received if I can have someone to second it. Gary, thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Righto, so now we move on to board members' reports on behalf of the Yawamutu Community Board. So has anybody been anywhere or spoken to anyone?
Excuse
Sorry.
me, would you like to receive the staff report about the
Yeah, the staff report recommendation.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I would like to receive the report, sorry. So that the Yawamutu community received the report events leading to the Turata Water Tower item in the Strategic Planning and Policy Committee meeting. Can I have someone? No, thank you. Seconder, please. No one wants to second it. Oh, Richard, thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, so now we are on to the board meetings that the board have attended. So have we got anything there? I keep trying to go to the other computer from my laptop and it doesn't work. Gary.
Me again, Madam Chair, through you. I had a bit of a giggle the other day when the brass band approached me and said, look, given that the community has rallied around and upgraded the band rotunda in Victoria Park to a high standard, what they had decided that they would like to do is to just have a couple of little plays on Sundays coming up there, depending on the level of COVID that we're at the time, and asked how do they go about just making sure there's nobody else using the band rotunda. It is a band rotunda and we only have the one band in town. So given what had happened in the past, and I've played at that rotunda several times, so we approached Sally, who put us on to another staff member there in terms of getting an application done. It really, really surprised me, and the band committee are having a bit of a giggle over it, just the lengths that the band has to go to just to have a little bit of a play out on a Sunday afternoon, to have somebody sitting down on blankets, $1 million worth of public liability cover, and then because they're not selling tickets or anything like that, people can come and go as they like. Depending on how much traffic is there, they may have to forward a traffic management plan just so that they can have a play out on a Sunday afternoon in the band rotunda. So, you know, they will go down and they'll go down that track to put to the hoops, and they'll probably get have a chat with the tennis club about some access to toilets and things like that. But it's really interesting just how far we've come since I was playing in the band, and just how many rules and regulations that we have to now jump through so that people can sit down and be part of a community and enjoy some music put on by a bunch of volunteers. But yeah, we shook our heads, had a bit of a giggle over it, but it was quite interesting just what has happened over the past 30 to 40 years, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Gary, and I think a really relevant comment, because it's putting people off from doing things, and here we are trying to, you know, connect our communities and do community events, but it's just getting harder and harder. And I know I've had people go, oh, it's just too hard, I'm not going to do it, and throw their hands in their air and walk away. So, you know, it's something I think councils, government probably need to address and lighten up on some of this stuff, so that, you know, and trust people to be people and not be idiots. You know, over all of them, gosh, years and years of community events, you know, I can't really recall any in my lifetime that I've been to that anyone hurt themselves, bar a skid or a scrape, you know. But them's the breaks. That's the world we live in, eh? So has anyone else been to anything or planning to go to anything? No, we haven't yet again. Okay, so I went along to Richard, you actually did, and Susan, you guys were both at the e-waste day, so thank you very much. Great to see you guys there, really appreciated the extra help on the day. Lou, Lou, most important man of all, who's there nearly every single time. Sorry, I didn't mean to forget you there. But Lou obviously is the key component of those urban minor days and getting those all organised for us here in Te Awamutu and linking people together. Just a quick update, the Kiwanis are still keen to take part, so we'll be able to call on a little bit of manpower from them going forward, but massive response. Gosh, blown away. It was pretty much bumper to bumper, eh, guys, the whole day. Richard, have you got something further there?
Yeah, one thing I would like to just point out that the lack of signage for it when people are sitting in cars as to the costs of things, perhaps that could be something that we could support that organisation with, getting some signage that is able to be put in where people are sitting and waiting. They can start working out how much it's going to cost them. Because we're a couple of frustrated people, especially the man that walked up carrying a TV. He was a bit annoyed and walked off carrying it.
Oops.
Yeah, but yeah, just I don't know what it's like in Cambridge, where whether their signage is appropriate over there, but I just felt that perhaps a little bit of information signage might help.
Lou?
I've already talked to them both over this, and we'd be very, very appreciative if they had it. They'd use it both for Cambridge and Te Awamutu. And yeah, signage. Unfortunately, we're operating on a shoestring, and as I say, everything that's gone into it has come in from community boards, both Cambridge and Te Awamutu, and from what little bit of money they get out of the collections. So yeah, no, very, very much appreciated, and it would be great. Look, one thing I would like to say, that was the biggest collection they've ever had. So I can actually say that. We broke all records, so great. And if we can continue to do this, it'll be immense, but I don't think we will. I think that was because we had a break and a bit of a gap, but yeah, I wouldn't want to go through too many of those. But the venue worked well. Great, everybody seemed happy, and we had a great turnout. So all I'm saying, Richard, great idea. I'm happy to, we could get the signs made if somebody just gives us a little bit of money to do it. We'd be very, very happy.
Oh, Lou, maybe can we hand it to you to ask the team to find out, and maybe both, we could put into both community boards to support a sign, because it could be the same sign that we can use both times probably, still with the current arrangement.
Absolutely agree with that, Madam Chair.
Yeah, so if you could ask them and get something priced up, that'd be great. Okay, so has anyone else been anywhere? Okay. Oh, Susan?
No, I was just going to say that I think they ran through something like $3,200 worth of e-waste that day. So, and it was pretty impressive, I have to say, yeah. And there was also I also attended the Kihi Community Connect Day that afternoon after the e-waste thing. And that was admittedly scaled down on account of COVID levels, but still nevertheless had a pretty steady supply of people coming and finding out information from different groups that were around. And I had a good yarn with the Kihi Residents and Ratepayers Association and ComSafe. So good to touch base with them, people that obviously we deal with a lot and assist with funding in terms of ComSafe's position. So yeah, no, fantastic doing.
Nice. Yep, I did see you there. I also popped along to that event and popped around and had a chat to all of the different stall holders. Definitely something that they're keen to do again, I believe. So A big thank you to the ComSafe team who actually organised that day. They felt very strongly that we needed just something on to cheer us up in the midst of all the COVID things that are going on. And yeah, they ran a really good little event. And, you know, if it wasn't for COVID, I think we would have seen a lot more people down there, and it had a really nice feel to it. They got a great day. And certainly all the people that were involved, you know, were very pleased to be there and keen to go again. So hopefully we'll have our flags, and then we might be able to go too, rather than looking like Nigel No Mates just sitting at a table. So the other thing that I've got coming up is I've been invited to speak at the Kiwanis later this month. So I'll be going along there and flying the community board flag at that event. And also later this month, I will actually have a health and welfare hui that I will be attending as well, wearing my whānau resilience hat as well as my community board hat. So a couple of things coming up there in the not too distant future. So that's that space covered off. That will lead us to our next meeting. Just before we close, I have got a couple of things that I just want to run past you very quickly after the close of the meeting. So if you could just wait before you bolt off. But if we can close the meeting at 8:07.
Can I also just quickly add, sorry, Ange, can I also just add that Lou and I passed on when we had our discussions in terms of the Three Waters reform before council the other day, last week. We expressed under no uncertain terms the Te Awamutu Community Board's opposition to those reforms. So, and that was certainly well received. They were pleased that it was an issue that obviously that the Community Board had considered.
And I'd support that, Madam Chair. We were very adamant that we wanted to retain our assets.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And I apologise for my son. He's been.
Yeah, I see his little arm popping in and out.
It's school holidays. It's school holidays, and I've been on a Zoom meeting all day.
So, hi, Jack.
Hi.
Okay. All right. So our next Te Awamutu Community Board meeting will be at 6 o'clock on Tuesday, the 9th of November. Depending on obviously COVID levels, will determine whether we are Zooming or whether we are doing it in person at the council chambers.